Hello guys and welcome to Telex Academy. My name is Faisal and we'll be creating a brick breaker game today based on Three.js. So let's jump into it. So the very first thing we'll be doing now is to actually create a folder. Now let's say I'm creating my folder. Let's call it brick breaker. Yeah. So let's open it in VS Code. Now in this video I won't be using the npm and res. I'll be loading directly from my Three.js library. Now to do this, now we could say this. Let's say app.html this way. So we have all our structure. So we have a structure. Let's say this. So yeah, I could not have this. I could have scripts src of what. Now say let's say http s of cdgjns dot cloud flare dot com, right, dot com, then slash ajax slash libraries slash 3.js, then we go have slash r128 slash 3.min.js. Now the other thing now which we have now is the script to actually what run my game. So I'm using scripts. I'm also saying src. Now I could create a app.js file here. So let's create this file, app.js. So let's begin. So the first thing we know is that to begin we need to create what our scene, our camera, and what our renderer. So I could say const scene is equal to new 3, right, dot scene. Exactly. So then we have const camera, right, then we're having the 3 dot perspective camera, then 75 window dot inner width. We have done this several times if you check our last videos. Then we have our const renderer equal to new 3 dot web gl renderer, right. So I'm having this guy this way. So now after this, now I say renderer dot set size of what windows dot inner width and what windows dot what inner height. Now I say documents dot body dot append child, then renderer dot dom element. Now the next thing after this is to what actually what add our lightning. So I will say, let me make a comment, add links sorry. Now I could say this const light equal to what new 3 dot what ambient what light. Now I'm using the color of my choice here, so let's say 0x404040. This. So I could have scene dot what add light next. Now the next thing for us to do is what set our camera position. So I could say set camera, right? So I'll just say camera, right, dot position, then I give the position I actually want to what add. Please, if you haven't checked out our Three.js tutorial, please go over it for you to understand what you're doing here better. So the next thing for me to do now is this. I say I'm to load my textures. So I say load what? Load textures. For now my game needs a paddle, it needs a ball, and it needs bricks. So I will say load texture for like paddle, comma, ball, and what? Bricks. Now let's see how we do that. Now to do that, now I say this const loader, right, equal to new 3 dot text the texture loader, right, this way. Now the first one I want to work on is my paddle, right? So I say const paddle texture is equal to what? The paddle const paddle texture is equal to loader dot what? Load this certain texture. Now let's do this. Let me bring my picture into what? This folder. So I could say this. I could have my folder here. Now let's say I'm picking this. Now let's go back. Now I could just paste this here. Now I'm having my pictures, right? So I'm having that's my paddle already. I have the paddle.jpg. So let me use this instead of png. Mine is and use what? JPG. Now I move to the next part. Now I say this. Now I say const paddle geometry. Now I say const paddle geometry is equal to what now? New 3 dot what? Box dot box geometry, right? Then I give the values 2, 0.2 and 0.5. Now we have this. Now the next thing I say now, I say is what? Const paddle material. Then I give what? New 3 dot what? Mesh basic material. Then I map what? My paddle texture there. Now after this, now I say const paddle is equal to what? New 3 dot mesh of what? Paddle geometry and what? Paddle material. Then I add it to my scene. So I say scene dot add what? Add paddle for me, right? So and I do this. Now I actually try to position my paddle at what? At the bottom. So to do this, now I say paddle dot position dot what? Y equal to what? -2, right? So I can now have this. The next thing I'm having now is what? For my ball. Now to do my ball, now I say const ball texture equal to what? Ball.jpg. Then I say const ball geometry equal to new 3 dot sphere geometry, right? Then I give the values also 0.2, 32 and 32. So the next thing I say is const ball material. Then I give what new 3 mesh dot mesh basic material as what map what the ball texture. Now the next thing I say now is I say const ball is equal to new 3 dot mesh, right, of what ball geometry, right? Then I say what ball material, both these guys. Now the next thing to do now is what add this ball to what to the scene. Now after doing this, now I now want to do something else. I just want to position the ball in what in the center. Now to do this, I'll say ball dot position dot set, right? Then I give values of 0, 0 and what 0. Now this positions the ball to the what to the center. Now after doing this, now the next thing we have now is what the next thing we'll be having now is our bricks, right? Now bricks, so I will say const brick texture because what this, right? Then const brick geometry. Now for my brick geometry, now I'm giving value of 1, 0.5 and the last value I'm giving here as what 0.2, right? So the next thing I do now is this. I say const what now brick material. So when I say brick material, is equal to now new 3, right? New 3 dot mesh basic material, right? Then I give the value inside by doing what I map my brick texture in there. So after mapping my brick texture in there, I do this next. The next thing is what I say const bricks is equal to what an empty array. Now I do this. Now I say const brick rows, right, equal to what 6. Now what's this guy doing? Actually I'm trying to increase what the amount of rows for my bricks, and I say const bricks cols. I give, let's say, 8 instead. Now I'm increasing what the columns. Now the next thing I do now is this. I say for let I equal to what 0, where I is what less than brick columns, then I should what increment. So I say for what let I equal to 0, then I say I is actually what less than brick what brick column, then I plus plus, right? So I say this now for what for let j, right, for let j equal to what equal to 0, then j is actually what less than what brick rows, then j what to increment. Now I say const brick is equal to what new 3 dot mesh of what brick geometry and what the brick material, right? Now inside it I say after this I actually do what I actually add my scene, right? I said sorry, this should even come here. Now I had my scene. Now I'm saying what scene dot add what the brick. Then after this I position my brick. I just put the position of my brick for what for more bricks to actually what be able to stay, right? So I'm saying brick dot position dot what dot set I minus 3.5 and j as what 1.0. right? Exactly this. Now, after doing this now, the next thing for me to do now is this. I say um actually need to like set up my ball velocity. Now to do this I say let, or let's say set up ball velocity. Now I could have this, let ball velocity equal to what, new 3 dot what vector of what 0.05 0.05 and what value as 0. Now the next thing I do now is what, I set up what my paddle controls. Now I say let, you can also say paddle velocity, anyone, let paddle speed, abi, let paddle speed equal to what, 0.1, right, this way. Now let's say let paddle direction, right, let paddle direction equal to what, 0, this way. Now I can now say this, I can actually add, I will now be adding event listener for movement, for my paddle movement. Now as you can see, let's say document dot add event listener of what, key down of this event. Now I could say let's say if what, if event, right, dot key is what, equal to what, arrow left, right, this should happen. Now I'm saying what, paddle direction of what, -1. Now I'm saying else if, else what, else if it is what, event dot key equal to what, arrow right, right. So I now say this. Now I could say paddle direction equal to what, 1, this way. Now the next thing to do now is this. Now I can say now this closed. Now the next thing to do now, I say document dot what, add event listener of what, key up. Now inside it now I say paddle direction, right, equal to what, 0, right. So I come back, I close this. Now after this, now the next thing I say, I have to prevent the paddle from actually going off the screen. So I will say prevent paddle from going off, right. So now let's see how we do this. Now to do this, now I say function of what, move what, move paddle, right. Now we see the move paddle now, so I could have this. Now say paddle dot position, right, then I say dot x plus equal to paddle direction, right, times paddle speed. Now that's done. Now I now say this, restrict what, the paddle to what, to the screen boundaries. Now how do I do this? I'll say if paddle dot what, position dot x is actually what, greater than 2.5, right, then the paddle dot position dot x should be equal to what, 2.5. Now else if paddle dot position dot x is actually what, less than 2.5, then paddle dot position dot x is equal to what, 2.5. Now don't want this. Now so After this, I now say this. I say the ball movement and collision is the next thing we touch. So I say ball movement and collision, right? So I could say function move ball, right? Then I have this ball dot position dot add, right, as what, ball velocity, this way. So now I'm not saying this. If now for the ball collision detection now, and I say this, if what, if ball dot position, right, if ball dot position, right, dot x is what, greater than 2.5, right, then I say or ball dot position dot x is actually what, less than minus 2.5, right, then what should happen? I'm now saying this, the ball velocity now dot x is actually what, equal to minus ball velocity dot what, dot x, right, this way. So the next thing for us to say now is this, if ball dot position dot y, now after doing for x we do for y, if ball dot position dot y is what, actually greater than 2.5, or ball dot position dot y is actually what, equal to minus, sorry, we will only be saying if ball dot position dot y is actually what, greater than what, 2.5, then what should happen? The ball velocity dot y should be equal to what, minus ball velocity of what, dot y, exactly. So the next thing we now say is what, is the ball should actually what, reset if it has gone below what, below the screen. Now to gain this, now I say this, if, sorry, now I say if what, if ball dot position dot y, now I'll say this, if what, if ball dot position, right, dot y, right, is actually what, less than minus 2.5, right, then I say this, game over, this way, right. Now this guy actually triggers what, the game over when the ball falls below the what, the paddle. Now if I now say this, if ball dot position dot y, right, minus 0.2 less than what, paddle dot position dot y plus 0.1, and, right, and what, and ball dot position dot x is greater than what, paddle dot position dot x minus 1, and pad ball dot position dot x is actually what, less than paddle dot position dot x plus 1, right, then I'm now saying this, ball velocity dot y is equal to what, ball equals to minus ball velocity of what, of dot y. This actually makes the what, the ball bounce, it makes the ball bounce off what, the paddle. Now I could now say this, I could have this, now I could say now I'll add the curly brace to actually end this. So I'm having this guy this way. Now the next part we're now looking into now is the brick collision detection. Now how do we do this? So let's say check for collision with the bricks. Now I will say let score equal to 0. This is what I'm actually initializing a score here. Then I say function check brick collision, right? So I'm saying this if for let I equal to brick dot length minus 1. Abi? Now let's do it ourselves. Let's say this. Let's say for let I equal to bricks, right, dot length, right, minus 1. Then I say I is actually greater than or equal to 0. Then I say I decrement this way. Now when I say const brick, right, is equal to bricks index 1. Exactly this way. So now the next thing I do is that I check if ball is near the brick and has collided. Now to do this, now I'll say if ball dot position dot x, right, is greater than brick dot position dot x minus 0.5, and ball dot position dot x is actually less than brick dot position dot x, right? So now to achieve this, now I now say this. I say, so we say this: if ball dot position dot x greater than brick dot position dot x, right, minus 0.5, and ball dot position dot x, right, that's less than brick dot position so brick dot position dot x, right, then I say plus 0.5, and what now? Then I say and ball dot position, right, dot y, right, greater than brick dot brick dot position dot y minus 0.25, and ball dot position less than brick dot position of dot y plus 0.25, right? So when I'm saying this, the ball velocity now, if you say this now, the ball velocity dot y is equal to minus ball velocity of dot y. Now this actually helps the ball to actually bounce. Now the brick dot splice, now what does it actually do? It actually helps to remove the brick from the array. And now when we're seeing scene dot remove, what does it do? It removes the brick from from the scene. Now I can now say like score. Now this is my score here. Now it should not be score plus go to next, score plus should actually increment. Now after this, now the next thing we need to do now is this. We say, so let's go by closing all this first. Okay, so we are good now. Now the next thing we say now is to actually display the score on our screen. Now how do we do this? We say display score. Abi? Now say function display score. Right, so let me just monitor you. Come on, close. Now I say this. Now I say const score element, right, is equal to document dot get element by id, get element by id of what, of score, right. Now I'm having this guy this way. Now if I now see this score element dot text content, text content is equal to what, score plus what, plus the main what, score. So I could just say it this way. Now okay, now let's just use the operator here. Now after this, now the next thing I'll now say is this. I'll say the game over logic. Now let's create the game over logic. We can say this, let's say game over abi. Now I could say function what, game over, this way. So I could now have this const what, game over element, right, const game over element equal to what, document dot get element by what, by id, right. Then I say what, yeah, game what over, this way. Now if I now say this game over element dot style dot what, dot display equal to what, block, then I say game over dot, right, game over element dot text content, right, is equal to what, game over, right, this way. Now we say final score as what, now let's say final score as this. Now let's say the score you're actually given, right. Now at this point, now I could say cancel animation frame by the what, animation id. Now what does this guy do? The animation loop is actually what, cancels the what, animation loop. Now the next thing I need to do now is to what, create the animation loop. Now and I'll say this, I will say let animation id, right, this way. Then I say function what, function animation function animate. Now I say this animation id equal to what, request animation what, frame, right, which we have here, right. So now inside it, now you can see I have the what, the move paddle, right. This will move the paddle based on what, the user input. We have the move ball, we have the check brick collision, and we also have what, the display score, right. We have all these functions we actually created before. Now the next thing we now say is this. Now I want to render it, so I say render dot what, render the scene and what, and camera. Now the next thing for us to do is what, animate, right, call out this function. Now after doing this, now the next thing we need to go back to is what, our html. Now we say this in our html, so let's create our divs here that will represent our game over and our score. So let's say this. Now I could say, yeah, score, right, score as 0 here. Now I could give this place here, and let's say this here, id of what, score. Then let's give an id here also, id equal to what, game over, right, game over, this way. Now the next thing I want us to do now, let's add some style. So we say style, right. So in our style now, okay, it's giving us an example already. So let us say the body we give margin 0, overflow hidden. Then our score now, let's make the position absolute, top 10, left 10. Okay, actually get what I want. Then let's add the z index to this z index then of 10. Now let's see what else is missing from here. Now for the game over, we say absolute, 10, top, left, transform. Okay, this is good. So also let's add the z index here, index. Now let's say 10. Now let's run our code and let's see how it actually works. Now let's load this. Now we're having our breaker in 3.js. Everything is actually functioning. So this is where it's going to stop. You can try to modify the code and actually make things better in it. Thank you. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and even comment for more great content. Thank you.